We are here with Arne Huschenbeth, Pro Tour Kaldheim champion.
Played a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh when I was a child, like when I was very young. So I don't have much knowledge of it, but yeah, I'm certainly excited to test my ability to rate cards in a different card game. Let's see.
I'm going to give you the cards in order from least complicated to most complicated.
I'm so ready. All right, what do we have? Cold Wave, spell card. So I assume that's like instant or sorcery and magic, something like that. This card can only be activated at the start of main phase 1. Until your next turn, neither player can play or set any spell or trap cards. Okay, this immediately reminds me of the card Silence in Magic, which says like, oh, you cannot spell, like the other player cannot play stuff. But this is not just silence for your opponent, it is silence for yourself. Until your next turn, neither player can play or set any spell or trap cards. And you do this main phase 1 at the start. So I would presume there's like, if it would be like magic, then there would be main phase 1, then a combat, then main phase 2. So at the beginning of main phase 1, you would basically say, I'm gonna not play anything, and you are not gonna play anything. Can play or set any spell or trap. Wait a minute, it stops only those. So you can still play creatures, you can still play monsters, as you call them in Yu-Gi-Oh! I know something.
There you go.
Yeah, wow. Okay, so it's an anti-spell or trap card. It is, I guess. Oh, so you can play it in a deck that only plays creatures and use it sort of as an anti-spell or trap card. Then it doesn't affect yourself as much. Wait, but okay, that's very narrow though. Like that's usually what you would do for like a sideboard card in Magic. Is there actually a sideboard in Yu-Gi-Oh?
There's a sideboard. Yep, 15 cards.
15 card sideboard. Man, this is weird because normally I would say is not necessarily worth it, but on the other hand, there might be like trap cards that blow up, I don't know, like the entire board or something. Maybe not that powerful, but have some very strong effects. And Cold Wave could be used in a narrow situation to, yeah, effectively dismantle those or protect your own things from those. So how do you want me to exactly rate this? Like either say it's playable in tournaments or say it's unplayable? Is that the
whether it's good or bad in today's Yugioh,
in today's tournament
today's tournament setting Yugioh? Yes,
you got me with I think this is a hard one, honestly. It's like my
See, I have to give you hard ones. You're a Pro Tour champion.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's playable as a sideboard card, sort of in that way.
Okay, yeah, I have to give it to you. You're right. This
yes!
card, but there's one other thing about this card. It's banned.
Okay. It's banned.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. So it's that good.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
So
why is it banned?
With creature monster strategies becoming the one of the best, if not the best, things you can be doing in tournaments, instead of spell and trap card strategies, you can just play this card and then do your whole entire combo without ever using a spell or trap card. I mean, a lot of combo decks need a spell card or trap card to do the combo. Mostly spell cards, so you wouldn't be able to play this card in one of those. But it's also good going second. So it's good going first, where you can just play this, then do your combo if you're a creature-based combo, and then pass the turn, and then your opponent can't actually use their spell cards to try to break your board. Like an evenly matched, which is basically like a balance card in Yu-Gi-Oh! You can't use that card because they cold waved. You can't use an infinite impermanence, which is like a negate or like a counter spell that you can use on one of your opponent's cards. It's not exactly like that, but it's like Tishana's Tidebinder. Like you play the card and then it shuts off the opponent's card. Like it stops the trigger and it also stops the whole effect. You can't use that because that's a trap card. You can't use a bunch of different cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! That are spells and trap cards to try to stop your opponent, whatever play your opponent already did, because you cold waved. So basically, cold wave equals win the game in those decks. So that's why it's
Okay,
banned.
wow.
It probably is one of the cards that probably can't come back off the ban list. There's a lot of cards on the ban list that I think should probably come off the ban list and just be perfectly fine. This card's probably not one of them. This is really, really broken.
Okay. Well, yeah, you can tell like my knowledge from not really understanding how the game works shines through. Obviously, because I did not see that coming. But I can understand now. Like, yeah, if you're a creature or monster-based deck, this could be very powerful in protecting you or disrupting your opponent. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, you said it was like playable, but it's like way overplayable.
Yeah.
But I'll give it to you. All right, we're going to a little bit more complicated than Cold Wave.
I'm excited.
I'll give you a monster card.
What do we have here? Amano Iato, funny name. Looks like a rock with a mouth. Okay, it is a rock spirit. Yeah, cannot be special summoned. Okay, that's already something I don't quite understand. Monsters cannot activate their effects. English, very difficult language. Except spirit monsters. Once per turn during the end phase, if this card was a normal summoned or flipped face up, this turn. So there's morphin in Yu-Gi-Oh. Anyways, return this card to the hand. And it is a 4 cost. I'm just gonna call. I don't even know how to call the 4-star cost. Attack 1,900. Okay, so stats are okay, not phenomenal, I would say.
Okay, let me
That's
give you a little bit
all.
more about the context of this. The stars matter. They're called levels. Nikachu in earlier episodes called them Dragon Balls, but they're not Dragon Balls. Levels 1, 2, 3, and 4, which will be represented by the number of stars it has on the top right. You can normal summon that monster without tributing any monsters. A normal summon is you can only do this action one time per turn, and you're restricted always to one normal summon per turn unless a different card tells you otherwise. If it's level 5 or 6, you have to tribute one monster, so sacrifice one monster to normal summon the card. If it's level 7 or higher, in most cases, you have to sacrifice 2 monsters to normal summon the card. So you can just normal summon this. But the turn you normal summon this, in the end phase, it goes back to your hand. The reason why it says flipped face up is because you can set a monster face down on your board, and if your opponent attacks into it, it will flip up. And if it doesn't die, it has 1,200 defense. So if your opponent attacks into this with a monster with attack of 1,200 or less, it will flip up without being destroyed. So then it will flip up. The continuous effect of Amano Iato will activate, saying your opponent can't activate monster effects. And then at the end phase, it will add back to your hand.
Okay. Monsters cannot activate their effects except spirit monsters. Tricky one. I feel like you're giving me this sort of as a bait. I feel like this is sort of the type of card that maybe when it got spoiled, some people were excited about it because it's like, oh, it says it can't. Monsters cannot do activations. Maybe that's what was cool about it. I don't know. But I feel like this is the type of card that turned out to not be good enough because it's like too gimmicky. It returns back to hand, this and that. I'm just gonna say no. It doesn't see play.
You're right. It does not see play anymore.
Right.
Anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, it did see play. It did see quite a bit of play actually. I don't know, like 5 years ago or so, because you would normal summon this card, and then normal summon it, and then do what your deck wants to be doing, whatever deck it was. Usually, it was a deck that didn't need to necessarily normal summon in order to do what their deck wanted to do. So you normal summon this. Your deck doesn't need to normal summon anyway. So you do this to basically stop your opponent from using a card like Effect Veiler or Ash Blossom against you. I don't expect you to know what those cards are, but they're basically counter spells in creature form.
Oh, okay.
So they're basically Force of Will.
Yeah.
But they're in a creature. So because you played Amano Iato first, your opponent can no longer use those cards.
I see. So it is sort of like a Stony Silence in Magic, sort of like for creatures or there's effects like that. Yeah, so I can see that it does something in that regard. If there's very powerful activated abilities, stops those. I can see that, yeah.
Yes, this was played in a deck called True Draco, where they would they would have cards that give you additional normal summons. Like I said, you only get one per turn, but for this specific deck, you have more. So they would normal summon this, and then play their spell card that lets them get an additional normal summon, and then additionally normal summon their card, and then it was basically game over for some decks if they had this card in their hand. So if this was 5 years ago, you'd be wrong, but you're right today.
I was right, but I was also wrong. Because how I came to my conclusion was, anyways.
Well, you were right because it doesn't see play, but
yeah,
it doesn't see play anymore. Actually, I should put that in.
Yeah.
CoolStuffInc.com is a proud sponsor of this channel, and you can show your support while getting 5% off your entire order and a free The One James Goblin Shaman token by using the code JAMES5 at checkout. Need singles for constructed or kitchen table play? Looking to pick up sealed product or the latest in Magic accessories? We've got you covered. CoolStuffInc.com is the place for all your Magic the Gathering needs, and support me by using the code JAMES5 at checkout. CoolStuffInc.com. Cool stuff in stock. This one's more complicated and less complicated.
A trap card. I think I remember those. You put them down, face down, in sort of like a trap area or something. Solemn Scolding. If this is the only set card in your spell and trap zone, there you go.
Yep.
When a monster would be summoned, or a spell card, trap card, or monster effect is activated, pay 3,000 LP, negate the summon or activation, and if you do, destroy that card. So this is essential. Wait a minute. So it's yeah. So it's basically a counter spell, but the cost for this is 3,000 LP. I believe the life is 8,000, right? 4,000, 8,000, 8,000. So it has a huge chunk of your life.
I do have to say one other thing.
Know from,
I do have to say one other thing about this. You see where it says that arrow next to the trap card, or it says trap card on the top right?
Yes.
That means it's called a counter trap, which means it has split second, but it can be responded to by other split second cards.
Okay. So basically, when your opponent has Scolding, activate Scolding, you have Scolding, then you can scold their Scolding.
Yes, but there's other trap cards that are counter trap cards. So you don't know any of those yet, but there's a lot of counter trap cards in the game. That are the split second counter traps, but there's more non split second traps than there are split second traps. So it is better that it's a counter trap.
All right. So it's a counter spell that costs you life. Then in Magic, this obviously wouldn't be that great, right? Because it would be like losing 8 life points. That's a lot. That is not something you would pay in Magic. But I've heard that Yu-Gi-Oh is a pretty fast format. So just having any interaction for your opponent's, fast combo or what have you might be good enough. And this literally countering everything, it really is a tough one for me to judge. Like if you would need your life as a resource, and if you have other things to you, if Yu-Gi-Oh is a game where you actually use your life a lot as a resource, which it might be, then you rather use your life on stronger effects, right? And that I don't know. So I'm gonna say it sees play, but I'm not very confident.
It sees very fringe play. Very, very fringe. And the line that you didn't talk a lot about was that if it's the only set card in your spell and trap zone.
Ooh, true.
So usually if you're a dedicated trap card deck and you're a control deck, which plays a lot of trap cards, like control decks play a lot of counter spells, right? It's like this saying, if it's the only counter spell in your hand, you can use this card. It's like if a counter spell said that.
Yeah.
And if you are a control deck, you would not want to play that, right? Because if you have 2 counter spells in your hand, you just can't play this. And it also has a huge downside. The only time you would want to play this card is like if you were playing a tempo deck in Magic and you wanted that one Spell Pierce card. Like your hand is not counter spells, but you want that one card that stops their best card so that you can finish off the game. So you would sideboard this 3 copies of it into your your deck going first, so that when your opponent has their card that would be really good against you out of their sideboard, you can stop it with this. And this stops anything.
I see. Yeah, that makes that is a very logical explanation. And yeah, exactly. It's sort of like that sideboard disdainful stroke in the Dimir midrange deck for Atraxa and Magic, right?
Exactly.
So like, okay.
Exactly.
Yep,
Since
I
you
can
wouldn't
see
want this in a dedicated trap deck, since you just couldn't activate this unless you used all of your other traps first. So it still boxes you
Yeah.
into the corner of, I have a Solemn Scolding set and I have another trap card set. I have to use this other trap card first before I use this.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Well, I was right. So
yeah, you're right. So nothing else matters.
yeah, exactly.
This card did see play, but now Solemn Judgment came off the ban list, and that is better than this card. It's basically all of this card without the downside. You pay half your life points, and then you stop the summon or a spell and trap card, and then destroy it. This card can also stop monster effects, so the effect of it is a little bit better. But sometimes you have to pay even more life points, and Solemn Judgment says pay half your life points. This says pay 3,000. So if you have 3,000 or less life points, you can't even activate this. But with Solemn Judgment, you can. So it's more readily online.
That makes sense.
So all right, you we'll say you got that one.
Yes.
Yeah, let's go. All right, let's go ahead and give you a slightly more complicated one.
Oh my. Cross out Designator. Another spell card. Okay. Declare, and it also has, it doesn't have an arrow, but it has a little symbol there.
Yes, that means it is quick play. That means since it is a spell card like Cold Wave, this one can also be used on your opponent's turn. If you set it first face down like a trap card.
Okay.
And this also can be used on your turn at instant speed, whereas the other one is exactly like a sorcery.
I see. Okay. Declare one card name. Banish one of that declared card from your main deck. And if you do, negate its effects as well as the activated effects and effects on the field of cards with the same original name. Until the end of this turn, you can only activate one cross-out designator per turn. I assume this means that you cannot play a second copy of cross-out designator, the last sentence.
You can play more than one copy of cross-out designator, but you can only use one of them per turn. You can only activate one per turn. So this is a little
that's
bit,
what I meant. Yeah.
This is a little bit more advanced. But if your opponent has a card like Solemn Scolding that we just went over that negates the activation of a card, you can activate another card, even though it says you can only activate one per turn. If you stop the activation, you can use another one. But if a card says you can only use one effect of whatever per turn, then your opponent negates the activation, you cannot use another copy of the card. But since it says you can only activate one and your opponent stops it by negating the activation, you can use it again. That's not super relevant, but that is something I should mention.
Okay. Well, with all that being said, I'm slightly confused because from what I understand, the effect is, I should read this again real quick. And if you do negate its effects, it disrupts it sort of extracts a card out of your own deck with the purpose of that being that all the effects.
You can use this. Okay, let me give you a little bit of a hint. Think like mirror matches.
Yeah, that's where my brain was going, actually. Yeah. It's basically because it does say on both sides, huh?
If you have a copy in your deck, but your opponent also has that card, it stops your opponent's card. But you have to have one in your deck.
I'm wondering now, are you trying to help me, or are you trying to sort of bait me into saying this is playable? I'm not putting any. I can see it, but like, okay. So essentially, in a mirror match situation, so it would be a sideboard card again. And as you told me, there's 15 sideboard slots that you can fill up. So you could put some cross-out designators in your sideboard to then banish a card from your own deck. Like, the problem I see with this, though, is in a situation where you and your opponent both have the card already in play, the Designator doesn't really do anything. It sort of reminds me of a Maelstrom Pulse in Magic, where it then would also, mess up your own thing. It is weird, man. You're giving me a weird one here.
I told you it would get progressively more complicated.
Yeah, they're definitely not easy. Man, this is hard. Like, I can see both. I can see that it's playable. I can also see that
let me give you one more hint.
Okay.
I can see
you really want me to win, huh?
I mean, there because there's a part of this card that you might be not thinking about.
Probably.
You're not restricted to colors in Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah.
So both players have the same card pool.
Yeah.
And it's
okay. So
it's like Legacy, where it's like everyone can play anything, but everything is colorless.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're basically saying that the best cards that exist are seeing a bunch of play because they're not color restricted.
Potentially.
And therefore a card therefore like everybody will have sort of like similar looking decks, and you can already presumably play this in a main deck.
Potentially.
Yeah, with that hint, I mean it becomes a bit yeah, I mean I think I can see that when that is the case, there's just so an abundance of the powerful cards that it could make sense to have a removal like this that just cleanly gets rid of their effects, is useful, and is also an instant, which on top of that gives you extra fix. Or like, it's not an instant, it's a spell card. I'm sorry, Yu-Gi-Oh players. From my understanding, as an instant, of course, much better than a sorcery in Magic terms. So all things considered, I would say it's playable. Yes.
Okay. Yes, it's playable. I was not trying to reverse psychology you, but I kind of wanted to double reverse psychology you. I wanted you to think that I was reverse psychologying you so that you would say that it's bad.
Yeah, I mean, sort of the first hint maybe made me skeptical still, but the second one kind of delivered. Like that sort of gave me the confidence that it was playable. Wild stuff, yeah, and everything for like 0 mana essentially. So everything's like cards that flow through.
Cards are flying.
Yeah. Stop this! Trap here, trap there. No.
I say no. You say no. I say no to your no, and it's like chain link 17. That's the chain links are like the stack. It's like a stack of pancakes.
The table.
It's like a stack of pancakes just flipped off the table. But yes, a lot. It's not necessarily a mirror match, but there's cards like I already mentioned, Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, or Effect Veiler, things like that. Those are like the Force of Will cards in Yu-Gi-Oh, and you can respond to those cards with this, exiling your own out of your deck and then stopping theirs. This isn't widely played, but in decks that are very glass cannoned, decks that need to perform their combo or else they probably lose the game, they play this card because they cannot afford to get Force of Will.
I see.
There's a lot of decks that can afford to get Force of Will and they don't really care. Like if you had a very resilient combo deck in Magic, but if there's not, if your combo deck's not very resilient, then you need this card.
That makes absolute sense.
So yeah, it's playable. Good job. I didn't help you at all.
No, not at
all. Hopefully you understand these a lot better since I'm putting them in Magic terms.
Oh yeah, totally. No, it makes it very understandable.
It's time for the most complicated card you're going to get today.
All right.
Be afraid.
Be afraid, he says. What do we got? We got... That's a funny name. Danger! Nessie! I hope I got those exclamation marks.
You did. You got them perfect.
Across in my speak.
You have to yell it. You have to yell it, or it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't do anything. You have to yell it.
Yes. Danger, Nessie! Yeah. All right. It's an aqua monster costing 8 balls with stars. You can. Sorry, I don't remember what you said.
Levels.
What it's called. Levels. You can reveal this card in your hand. Your opponent randomly chooses one card from your entire hand. Then you discard the chosen card. Okay. Weird. Then if the discarded card was not Danger, Nessie, special summon 1 Danger, Nessie, from your hand. Apologies for everybody whose ears just blew up. And if you do draw 1 card, if this card is discarded, sorry, I gotta repeat this. So special summon from your hand. So you basically, I would assume special summon means you just boom, put it on the
field. Yep.
And if you do, you draw a card even, so it replaces itself. And then if this card is discarded, you can add 1 Danger card from your deck to your hand, except Danger Nessie. You can only use the effect of Danger Nessie. I'm gonna stop once per turn. What is going on? So it okay. What is the hand size in Yu-Gi-Oh?
5.
What's like what is your starting hand size?
5.
5. And you draw 1 card per turn?
Yes.
Naturally. Okay. 5, draw 1 per turn. All right. So basically you're playing a little bit of a gambling game here. But I mean the odds are somewhat in your favor to basically you can discard your hand brand. Then if the discard was not Danger Nessie,
it is similar to Gamble. The actual card Gamble.
Yeah, totally. If this card is discarded, you can add 1 Danger. So basically, it tells you in the second line what happens if it is actually discarded, right?
Yep.
That's what it means. So then you can add 1 Danger card from your deck to your hand. So except Danger Nessie. So you would, I hope for this to be playable. You want to be hopeful, right? You want to have Danger Nessie be playable because it's cool, it's fun, it's gambling. There would need to be other playable Danger cards. So I'm just gonna presume there's another playable Danger card that isn't Danger Nessie.
There are other playable Danger cards.
All right. Well,
and just to let you know right now, they all have the gambling effect.
Okay. Man, I should play Yu-Gi-Oh, huh?
That's what I'm saying.
You can use, by the way, anybody who knows me knows that I hate RNG decks in Magic. So that was a blank joke. You can only use this effect of Danger Nessie once per turn. Oh my gosh. I mean, 1,006. So it is a 8 level, so that is very expensive, but the stats don't strike me as that phenomenal. But you know what okay. So if Yu-Gi-Oh is this like a little bit faster combo, I do this, I do that, then this strikes me as a card that fits into that sort of strategy because wait, what makes me stop right now is just a thought that caught me is that all these cards were playable so far. So, from a logical standpoint, one of them should not be playable, and I'm trying to make this playable again now in my head. But actually, are you giving me 5 out of 5 playable cards here today? Is this
would I do that?
Some next level psychology?
Would I do that?
Would you do that? Would the one James do that? Oh man. Okay, let's just scratch that thought. It just came to my head. Let's put it aside for a minute. So it is a free creature on the board that draws you a card as long as they don't hit it, which is pretty awesome, I would say. And even if they hit it, it's discarded, but it's instantly replaced with another card. And you gave me a hint in saying that Danger cards are good. So,
I didn't say they're good. I said that they all have this effect.
They all have this effect, and they are playable, right? Some of them are playable. No.
Oh no, they're like the Danger cards that you could get off of Danger Nessie all had the same effect of like the random gamble effect.
Yeah. Okay,
that's what I'm saying.
You also said that they were playable once, but
no,
maybe I misheard.
didn't say that.
Okay. Well, I think this is good because it's free. It is. I'm just gonna make my case real quick. I think it's good because it's free. It's free value, free real estate, right?
Free value.
And yeah, as long as there's some other playable Danger cards, then you even get. There's no downside. I guess the only question I have in my mind raising is sort of like, you can reveal this card in your hand, but it doesn't even say like when. I presume it's in a main phase you can do that.
It's a sorcery speed ability.
Yeah, and you can do it as often as you want in a turn?
You can only use one of these per turn, but yes.
Oh wait, what?
You can only use this
You can
effect
only
of
use one? Oh,
yeah. You can only use one of
that is huge.
you can only use this effect of Danger Nessie once per turn. That last line.
Oh, right. But you can use other effects in the same main phase, right?
You can use other effects of other danger monsters.
Or okay. Yeah, no. Then I still stand corrected. I think yeah, sure. You might not do the Nessie thing again, but you can use other ones. I think this is fine. I think this is playable. Yeah, I'm gonna say it's playable.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's not only playable. It was restricted on the ban list.
Yeah, okay.
Because you would have
did my thought process also like
yes.
Okay?
Usually the randomness would make you think that it was not good. But since there's no real downside to this. Since if you do get to summon it, if you get like the 80% in your opening hand that your opponent doesn't hit the Danger Nessie with the randomness, you get a free summon of a level. It's level 7, by the way, not level 8. But whatever. You get a free Danger Nessie and then draw a card. The level doesn't. Okay. The level matters in real Yu-Gi-Oh, but it doesn't matter in our conversation.
Totally.
But you get a summon of Nessie and then you draw a card. If you just hit the Nessie, then you search another danger monster, and the other danger monsters are very good. There's another one called Danger Mothman that it has the same effect. Summon it and draw a card if they don't hit it, but if they do hit it, the graveyard effect says if it's discarded, both players draw a card and discard a card. So like there's a bunch of different effects when they're discarded, and they don't always have to trigger if they're discarded with their own effect. They trigger when they're discarded off of any other discard outlet, kind of like Madness.
Oh wow, that's insane. And one card actually wasn't playable, right? I misremembered the Amano Iato.
Yeah, Amano Iato was not playable.
True.
I mean, it's playable. Yeah, you can play it, but is it playable in a big tournament? I don't know. Probably not. Okay. But Danger Nessie is played, and it's played in multiple decks even today, and it is restricted on the ban list still today.
All right. That means I got everything right, sort of. With a little bit of help, just a little bit of help from you.
I didn't help you at all. No, I feel like it'll be a little bit unfair to not bring up stuff that are just like really important to evaluate in the card. You know, like being able to normal summon or not, what a special summon is, if the card says split second or not. So if you liked Arne and you want him here back to evaluate maybe even more complicated cards or just really easy cards, let me know down in the comments if there's any other cards that you want Arne or anyone else to evaluate that we haven't gone over yet. Put them down in the comments as well. Like the video and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more stuff like this, and I will see you next time.